Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Robert Hargrove, welcome to the conversation today.
Happy to be here, John.
It's a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Boston. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of leadership development. This is a really interesting topic to me. I've been in the leadership development space now for going on 25 years, and it's a fascinating space. I love it. I think it's shifted and changed a lot over that time period. You've probably been in the space a bit longer than I have. And so we've seen a lot of ebbs and flows and a lot of changes over that time period. But even now, like especially over the last 5 years or so, there's been even more shifts. And now we're talking disruptive technologies, AI, distributed teams and all sorts of adjustments around hybrid and remote teams and all that kind of stuff. And so it fundamentally is changing the nature of work. And that means leadership development is changing as well. So we're going to dive into this topic and really just explore what does it mean for the future of leadership development. As we get started, I wanted to share Robert's bio with everybody. Robert Hargrove is a globally recognized authority on leadership coaching. As a founder of Masterful Coaching, he has dedicated his career to helping leaders unlock their full potential and achieve greatness. His innovative approach to coaching has made a lasting impact on the world of leadership development. And I could share so much, Robert, about your background. You've accomplished so many great things, but I'm going to pause. Anything you would like to highlight before we dive on into the conversation?
Not particularly. Talking about you said you've been working on this for 25 years. I've probably been working on it for 40 years. So I don't think I figured out all the answers.
Yeah, well, one thing's for sure. I don't think it's something that we ever completely figure out. One thing I really like about this space too is I think there are leadership fundamentals. I think there are grounding principles and foundational principles. I also don't think leadership is like rocket science. I don't think it's unobtainable. I don't think it's beyond our reach.
That's why I said not particularly.
Yeah, I don't think it's like rocket science. I don't think it's something that is so complicated that the average person can't figure out how to be a more successful leader. I think it is within everyone's reach to learn, grow into themselves, how they can be better leaders. But it is hard. It's really hard because good leadership requires consistency. It requires commitment to foundational principles. And life is hard. Life is rough. We get things thrown at us constantly. Work is tough. Organizations are messy. People are messy. Teams are messy. And because of all of that, we get thrown off our game and we start running around, putting out fires and running around like chickens with our heads cut off. And instead of staying true to the principles, the foundations, we get easily distracted and we start to do all these other things and we don't stay true to those principles. And I think that's even true now as we start to see these shifts that I mentioned in the introduction. Yeah. So as we start, maybe, over your 4 decades plus of career, tell us kind of your view on where you've seen the field go during that time and really what you see as some of those foundational components to strong, successful leadership.
When I started out, actually, in my consulting career, leadership was not even a word that was used in companies. It was the word was management. Leadership didn't become used until relatively recently. In Europe, they didn't even use the word management. They used the word control. My job is to control the organization. But let's go to a deeper place. I was thinking before we got on this podcast, what do I have to say about this topic? Where does leadership come from? And I think if you want to become a leader, the best place to look is within yourself. The first move is within yourself, because I believe that greatness is in our DNA code. We were all born to be great. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be mediocre. And there's kind of like a still small voice within each of us that says, I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact. I want to do something to be effective, not just to make a living. But what happens with a lot of us is we lose we tune out that voice. We listen to other voices that tell us to be realistic, to be practical, to do something, to make a living, not something that we can joyfully express our unique qualities of excellence. And we lose touch with that voice. And so the beginning point of all leadership is to listen, is the first move is within, to recognize greatness is in your DNA code, and to turn up the volume on that voice that says, I want to make a difference, I want to have an impact, I want to be effective. Then I can go to a second step, which if when we get to the next pause here.
Yeah, I really like that. I do think we tend to get distracted by just all the noise around us in society. Sometimes that's the voices in our head. Sometimes that's the expectations, just the social norms and expectations around us, or the how those mix together, right? And ultimately, whatever the cause, we tend to, we just tend to lose focus. We tend to forget, like why we're doing what we're doing. Most people want to do right by others. There are narcissists out there. There are psychopaths out there. There are people that like genuinely, aren't great people. But most people, are good people and they want to do well. But we all have baggage and we all have, hard things in our lives and we all get distracted. And so sometimes we aren't our best, and sometimes we don't do right by others. It's not usually malicious. It's just not our best selves all the time. But if we can like recenter ourselves and kind of come back to true north and come back to like our true values around what we want to be and our meaning and our purpose, and try to have that play out in how we interact with other people and interact with our work, the sky's really the limit in what we can accomplish. And I'm a believer in trying to do work, trying to seek a career around what we're good at and what we love and what has value and meaning and purpose to us. But I'm also, a realist, and I understand that not everyone has privilege, to be able to do things that are necessarily things that they love. And some people have to, people have to do all sorts of different types of work for all different sorts of reasons. And sometimes maybe they're going to do a job that isn't their favorite type of thing. And maybe they're going to have to do something that's kind of a grind and something that, they're just getting the paycheck because they have to support their family. And I get that. And there's honor in doing any kind of work if you're doing it to support your loved ones. But I also believe that any kind of work can be meaningful. Any kind of work can drive meaning and purpose and value, depending on how you approach it, like your mental state and your mindset around it and how you approach it, especially when you're leading people. If you're leading people, from the kind of lowest level supervisor through any managerial level, all the way up through senior leaders and executives, if you're leading people, and I don't care if it's like on a farm or in a factory or, in an office setting or wherever, if you're leading people, that is a meaningful type of work because you're dealing with humans, and humans matter, and humans have lives, and they have families, and they have what they're doing with their job has wider sweeping impacts. And so what you're doing with them really matters, and you can derive a lot of meaning and purpose from that. And so anyways, I just want to reiterate everything you were saying. I think really is important for us to remember, even if, perhaps we're in a job we don't love. Maybe there's stuff that, we would prefer to be in a different career or whatever. And for whatever reason, our circumstances don't allow for that right now. That's okay, because we still can, derive meaning and purpose and value via our mindset and how we interact with those around us. And I think that's something really important for us to always remember.
That's true. And I was thinking about leadership today. I was saying, where does leadership come from? And I think it comes from what I call, and I'm going to go to a very sort of root cause, what I call ennobling ideals and empowering values. And when I've spent most of my life as a leader in one form or another, as a CEO, founder, masterful coach, mentor, uh, thought leader. But leadership started for me when I was pretty young. And I listened to John F. Kennedy. I'm from Boston. You may hear my Boston accent. I have a Harvard cap on just because I don't want people to see my hair receding. Uh, but it started for me when I listened to the inaugural address of President John F. Kennedy, and he said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country."
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this in a Democratic or Republican context, because I know you're from Utah, but he said in that speech, the torch has been passed, to a new generation of leaders born of freedom. And when he said that, I felt as if he were speaking to me,
Mm.
and that I had to pick up the torch and carry it on and do something with my life that really made a difference. And I want to go back to something that you were saying, because this was in sharp contrast to the household where I grew up. My father was like a traveling salesman, uh, and he would come home late, and my mother would say, "Where have you been?" And he would say, "Woman, I'm trying to earn a living." I heard that in my head like 10,000 times. I'm trying to earn a living. I'm trying to make a living. Trying to make a living. And when I heard John F. Kennedy speak that day, and I could use many other examples, I realized I distinguished from myself. There's a difference between living your life so as to make a living, and living your life so as to make a difference. There's a difference between picking up the torch and try to do something that has an impact that's effective, and picking up a sample bag, if you will, and try to make a sale. And so my life has been on that course. But I think everyone listening to this probably has a hero. Mine was John F. Kennedy. Yours might be Ronald Reagan or Nelson Mandela or Winston Churchill or whoever. Uh, but I think so. Leadership comes from going within, listening to the voice inside of your head that says, make a difference, make an impact, be effective. It has a lot to do with finding a hero that you can emulate, someone you can really admire and respect, who's a model of leadership. And it then involves finding out what field you want to play. We need leadership not just in business and politics, but in every institution and in every field. I hope I haven't gone on too much. I warmed to my subject matter and can't be stopped.
No, I think you're right. Having good role models is really helpful, especially when we find ourselves when we find ourselves in situations of dilemma, when we have
Oh yeah, yeah.
conflicting values, when we have those tensions in place. Like it's easy to make decisions when it's a good versus a bad, right? Or when there's sharp contrast between what we think right and wrong is. That's an easy decision to make. But when we have two bads that we have to choose between, or we have two goods to choose between, or whatever, like those are the situations where it's harder, right, to figure out what you want to do when you know that no matter what you choose, someone's going to be harmed in some way by it. That's a really tough decision to make, and sometimes it's as much about the process you go through in your decision making, and how you communicate, and how you support those that you're working with in the aftermath of the decision. Sometimes it's as much that as it is the decision that is made. And so having people you can look to through those hard decisions and their example can be really, really powerful. I love a wide variety of people and the examples that they provide. Nelson Mandela, like you said, that's a great example of someone, with vision, perseverance, clarity of values and this. Fictional characters like Ted Lasso. I just find someone like him in a fictional sense to be really inspiring. And we could list so many different other characters or individuals
Since
that can.
many people from Utah that I know are CEOs love Ronald Reagan the way I love John F. Kennedy. You might be a Ronald Reagan fan, so let's bring him into the panoply of stars. But
Sure.
it's
I mean, I'm not a Republican, but sure. I mean, many people revere various political leaders. There's all sorts of folks that people
that's a great word for
revere.
it. Revere them. Adam
Yeah.
Grant talks about having a network of coaches or mentors or role models. I really like that. You're bringing this out as opposed to having just one person, because different persons will give you a different answer in different situations, or appropriate for different situations.
Yeah, and I think it's just really helpful to have. Sometimes people talk about having their personal board of directors or their personal advisory board, and a lot of times that people, close friends, family members, professional colleagues that you can lean on and get counsel from during difficult times. And I think that's super powerful and super helpful. But I think it's also valuable to have kind of your personal advisory board of those you revere and aspire to, like
That's a great.
those
I love
those
that idea.
examples.
I love that,
Yeah.
a personal advisory board of people who represent great leadership to you, or great humanness, or whatever it is you want. That's it. Because different people you look to in different situations. Someone making a tough decision, someone dealing with adversity, someone having a big vision. It's a very good idea.
And I teased at the beginning, like the leadership development is shifting, like there are foundational pieces, but we live in a world of AI. We live in disruptive workplaces and shifting work design and all that kind of stuff. With this advisory board kind of thought, I've tried to have my own professional kind of personal advisory board or advisory council. But with AI, one thing I tried, I've seen other people try it. That's where I got the idea. I put into Claude, one of the AIs, I created my own advisory board of like great leaders, so you can put in the personas of like these great people in history, and like who they were and what they did and like the types of things they faced. And then once you have their personas in there, and then you can give your problem, your challenge. You can say, how would these different people have faced this kind of dilemma? And what kind of advice and what
would Martin Luther King do?
What kind of advice might they give in this kind of a situation? And obviously it's you take it with a grain of salt. It's AI output, but like you can get
actually, I think Claude's output is better than most leadership development gurus, business McKinsey consultants, and others. I think that's a fabulous idea. Does Claude remember when you go to ask a question? Does he remember your list?
I would go back and prompt it again. Yeah, but it's just an interest. These are types of things that you can do. Now that maybe you couldn't
it's an
have done
interesting
before.
point because you can get leadership development advice from Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini in 24/7 in 10 seconds that you used to have to go to take a 3-day leadership program in some cabin in the woods someplace. So that's very interesting.
Anyways, it kind of democratizes leadership development, right?
Absolutely.
And you still need to know kind of how to prompt it. You need to know how to utilize it, how to debrief it, how to incorporate it, how to reflect on it. Like there's definitely still a role for leadership development folks and trainers and all of that, because there's a lot of skill that goes into all these different piees. But it does
actually,
democratize
John, I think you're not doing justice to your point. I think, in fact, that AI is going to totally disrupt the field of leadership development, and most, I would say, the vast majority of leadership development people, business consultants, trainers will not have a job except for the very, very best and the most sincere and most talented.
Yeah, the top and most elite. I think there's always going to.
I think the point we want to bring out here is we want to encourage everyone listening to use AI as a leadership development coach and mentor, much the way that you suggested, or as a
I think there's lots of potential there, lots of opportunity there. Robert, this has just been a great conversation. We've only scratched the surface here, but there's lots of things to consider as we move into the future of work. As we wrap things up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, and then give us a final word for today.
Okay, well, I guess I'm trying to make 3 points. One is greatness is in your DNA code. Listen to the voice inside you that says, make a difference, make an impact, be effective. 2, find your heroes, a great leader in history or in business or politics that you can emulate, and do what John was talking about. Create your own personal board of directors, or kitchen cabinet might even be a better word. There was a third point I wanted to make if we had time, which was all great leaders wind up with an impossible goal and an impossible deadline. John F. Kennedy said, man on the moon by the end of the decade. Challenge yourself to have an impossible goal and an impossible deadline, and you'll discover that becomes a crucible experience that helps transform you into a leader. As far as my own, if you want to get in touch with me, my company is called Masterful Coaching. Right now, I'm working on something close to what you were talking about. It's called Masterful Coaching AI. It's kind of like a ChatGPT or Claude for CEOs, founders, and top team members. So, and people are going to be able to get very high value masterful coaching for pennies. Basically, my goal is to disrupt the $300 billion leadership development, business consulting, and training industry. So, if interested in any of that, get in touch with us. Get in touch with me on LinkedIn, Robert Hargrove, or our website, masterfulcoaching.com.
I love it. I love it. Thank you much, Robert. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Robert can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.